I spent 5 years turning my art studio into my own private world, a place no one was allowed to touch. But on the very day I was set to fly to Florence and start a new life, my parents dropped a betrayal so brutal it left me breathless. They handed everything over to my sister's daughter and her 3 kids. What they didn't know was that I had a little gift of my own that this family would never forget. Before we dive into today's dramatic and unexpected story, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and turn on the notification bell so you won't miss any of our upcoming stories. And leave a comment to let us know where you're watching from. Now let's follow this bitter, calculating tale filled with shocking twists that will leave everyone speechless. My name is Elise Harper, and at 32 I stand in the heart of my art studio, a sanctuary carved from 5 years of sweat sacrifice and unyielding dreams, its walls pulsing with the colors of my soul. The air hums with the scent of linseed oil and clay, a melody of creation that drowns the world's noise. But a storm brews beyond these walls, a family war I never foresaw ignited when my sister Clara, 28, saw her marriage collapse under the weight of betrayal. My parents, Margaret and Thomas, both pragmatic accountants rooted in Midwestern practicality, declared my studio a sacred space of light and vision, the perfect refuge for Clara and her 3 children. They didn't know I'd already signed a lease for my tenant Nora, or that I'd secured a year-long residency in Florence, Italy, a dream that could redefine my career. When I revealed my plans, their faces froze, eyes wide with shock and judgment, a moment that haunts my sleepless nights, their silence louder than any rebuke. My heart, a fragile brushstroke of hope and hurt, trembles as I face a choice: surrender my dreams to family duty, or fight for the life I've built, a tightrope walk between passion and obligation that threatens to tear my canvas apart. As a child, I found refuge in art, my crayons weaving worlds where I at 7 could escape the gray of our practical home. My drawings adorned the refrigerator, fleeting trophies before Margaret swept them away for clutter. Clara, 4 years younger, danced in the spotlight ballet recitals, spelling bees, her charm a currency that bought our parents' pride. Thomas and Margaret ran their accounting firm with precision, their success a frame for Clara's triumphs. They saw her grace as their legacy, while my sketches were nice distractions. Margaret's voice, soft but sharp, would say, "Art's lovely, Elise, but numbers build futures." Those words, like a cold wind, carved a hierarchy. Clara's talents exalted my creativity, dismissed a wound that bled quietly through my youth. At 12, I painted a mural for my grandmother Lila, her garden blooming on her shed. Her joy. "You've got magic." Elise was a seed rooting my purpose, while my parents' indifference, their eyes on Clara's trophies, left me chasing their gaze. By high school, I poured my heart into art sketching, in secret my portfolio a rebellion against Thomas's push for accounting. At 16, I won a local contest. My painting of a storm-torn oak hung in City Hall. Lila framed the news clipping, but Margaret barely glanced, asking Clara about her debate win. That night, Lila called, "Your art speaks, Elise. Don't let them silence it." Her words were a flame guiding me through their shadow. I worked weekends at a diner saving for art supplies, while Clara's college fund grew her business degree a real path. At 18, I chose art school, defying Margaret's brochures for business programs. "Art's a risk, Elise," she said, her voice tight. "Clara's building stability." The comparison cut, but I held fast, my resolve a quiet fire. Clara sailed through her business degree, marrying Daniel, a pharmaceutical rep, at 22, while I toiled through art school, waitressing double shifts, my hands raw from labor, my heart alive with creation. At 25, I bought a rundown bungalow on Milwaukee's fringes, its cracked tiles and worn carpet a canvas for my dreams. The detached garage with high ceilings and northern light stole my breath, a perfect studio. I transformed it over 3 years, every dollar poured into insulation, lighting, custom shelves, a kiln for ceramics, and a vintage drafting table, my heart's altar. My hands bore calluses from laying bamboo floors. My back ached from plumbing, learned via YouTube, and the walls were painted ivory to cradle my colors. "This is your soul, Elise," my friend Sophie said, stepping into the finished space. Its energy sang a declaration of my place in the art world. Clara, visiting once her toddler smudging clay, remarked, "It's so free, just doing what you love. Her smile hit a barb, and her life suburban home, 3 kids country club, was deemed superior. Our parents echoed her Thomas, calling my studio a nice hobby, their pride reserved for Clara's real achievements. Yet their dismissal fueled me my art a shield against their judgment. Last year, my work caught fire. A mixed media series on women's resilience layered with torn fabric and jagged metal drew a gallery owner's eye. My solo exhibition sold out, critics praising my raw textures and haunting voids. My name landed on emerging artist lists, invitations flooding in from Chicago, New York. Then came the email, a residency at Florence's Istituto Bellini, offering studio space, a stipend, and study under Renaissance masters. It was my dream, a chance to weave my voice into art's ancient tapestry. But practicality loomed. My mortgage couldn't pause. Selling felt like betraying my history. Nora, an art teacher and friend, offered salvation, leasing my home for 12 months, her upfront rent funding my journey. We signed papers, her excitement. This studio's alive, Elise easing my fears. I shared Florence vaguely with Sophie, wary of family scrutiny. Margaret's newfound praise for my art was tinged with surprise, as if I'd stumbled into success. I delayed telling them, guarding my joy, unaware a crisis would soon collide with my silence. On a Tuesday, with my studio littered with packed brushes, Margaret's voice was tense as she said, "Emergency meeting, Elise. Come now." My pulse was racing, accident, illness, but she said, "It's Clara, hurry." The drive to their suburban home was long and filled with anxiety. Their driveway held Clara's minivan, which was crooked. Inside, the air was heavy. Margaret's eyes were red, and Thomas was pacing. Clara curled in an armchair, her face hollow, and she said, "Daniel left." The words struck, shattering our family's golden standard. Daniel and Clara's marriage, our family's golden standard, when Clara whispered, "3 days ago," she said, "he packed while I watched. He said he's been unhappy for years." Margaret brought tea. Thomas became irate, saying he drained their accounts, canceled cards, and left her nothing. Clara's voice broke. "Sophie keeps asking when Daddy's home." My heart ached. Her pain felt like a mirror to my own invisible wounds, but their urgency felt like a trap, a prelude to demands I couldn't meet. Margaret's cautious voice moved the room as she spoke. "Clara needs stability, a home for her and the kids." I nodded. "Your guest room, Thomas's workspace." After exchanging a practiced look, Thomas and Margaret locked eyes, and Thomas said, "Our house isn't suited. The stairs are too steep for Lily." To which Margaret added, "We need family resources, Elise, togetherness in crisis." The air thickened, and their attention shifted to me. "I can help financially." I offered my gallery sales strong, but Thomas interrupted, "Not just money, a home temporary." His emphasis chilled me, so I said, "I'm traveling soon, keeping Florence a secret, art-related work," and Margaret's eyebrows raised. "When do you need?" Clara's hurt-filled, piercing gaze locked with mine. "Where are you going?" As Margaret hurried to check, Thomas's eyes lingered. "We'll all sacrifice, Elise." His words, a gentle demand, sparked fear, a storm rising, threatening my canvas, my dreams, and my soul. I redirected, nothing final. But a crash from the den. Lily's toy broke the tension. The air in my studio grows heavy. A canvas stretched taut with the weight of my family's expectations. Their voices like a gathering wind, whispering demands that threatened to uproot my dreams. Clara's crisis. A raw wound tearing through our family's fabric has cast my sanctuary, my studio, my heart's pulse as a solution to her pain. Margaret and Thomas, their eyes sharp with purpose, see my space not as the soul of my art, but as a practical answer. A temporary home for Clara and her 3 children, Emma, Liam, and Lily. Their intrusion, unannounced and unyielding, stirs a storm within me, my resolve a fragile root against their tide. I clutch the lease papers signed with Nora, my tenant, a shield for my Florence residency, yet their presence in my home, measuring my sacred space, feels like a theft. The clash of my passion and their practicality is a thunderhead rising, and I, Elise Harper, stand at its edge, my heart, a drum beating defiance, knowing the battle for my dreams has only begun. 3 days after their emergency meeting, I'm sorting brushes for Florence, my hands trembling with the weight of unspoken truths, when my doorbell chimes sharp and uninvited. Through the window, I see Margaret's sedan and Clara's minivan, parked haphazardly, a silent invasion. No call, no text, just their sudden arrival. A gust that rattles my peace. I open the door, my voice steady but thin. This is unexpected. Margaret's smile is tight. We were nearby and thought we'd visit. Her lie as a brushstroke poorly blended my neighborhood far from their usual paths. Clara trails behind her children, spilling in Emma 8, clutching a doll. Liam 6, all restless energy, and Lily 3, toddling with a stuffed bear. Thomas carries a measuring tape, slipping it into his pocket when he catches my gaze, a gesture that twists my stomach. Just checking in, he says, his tone too bright as they move toward my studio's door. The children dart ahead, Liam's hands already reaching for my carved stamps, Emma eyeing my sable brushes. Careful, I call, my voice sharp, but Clara's warning is half-hearted, her eyes avoiding mine. As she walks through my living room, Margaret looks at the stacked boxes and says, "Organizing." Thomas leads the group to my studio, his steps deliberate, his voice heavy with intent. "This space is bigger than I remembered," he says, pulling out the measuring tape and stretching it across my workbench while Margaret opens my supply closet, her fingers brushing my neatly arranged pigments. "What are you doing?" she asks, despite the chill of autumn in the air. I nod, preparing for my trip, but her eyes linger, calculating. With some changes, bunk beds, a crib by the north wall, the plumbing's ready for a bathroom. I ask, fear rising like a river. They exchange that look, the one from their meeting, a silent pact, and Margaret puts her hand on my arm. "Elise, we've found the perfect solution. Your studio could be a home for Clara and the kids temporarily until she's stable." Her words are like a lightning strike, and my haven is reduced to a shelter. Thomas nods. He points to my utility sink, my lifeline for rinsing brushes, now a fixture in their plan. Clara stands by the door, her silence a shadow, while Lily squeezes clay, creating colorful smears on her tiny hands. "This is my workspace," I say, my voice trembling. "My career happens here." Margaret waves dismissively. "You've got the house. Set up a corner in your bedroom." Her words sting. My studio, my soul's canvas, is called a corner. Thomas adds, "It's about family, Elise. Clara has nowhere else." His tone, laced with judgment, echoes years of hobby dismissals. Liam picks up a sable brush, its delicate bristles bending. That's not a toy, but Margaret's voice cuts through. "It's just temporary." Clara finally speaks, her voice small. "Just a few months, until I find a job that pays." Her eyes don't meet mine, her gratitude tinged with entitlement. Emma opens a drawer, my brushes clinking, and I feel my space slipping, a theft framed as salvation. The group is still, their faces expressionless, and then Margaret laughs. "I want to help. But I'm leaving in 3 weeks for Florence, a residence at the Istituto Bellini, a career-defining chance." Right now, Thomas's tone becomes sterner. "You're leaving your sister behind to go on a painting trip." The accusation burns. My dream is reduced to a whim. "It's not a trip," I respond. "It's a prestigious program. Artists compete globally for this. I've planned it for months." Clara's red-rimmed eyes meet mine. "You didn't tell us." Her voice cracks a wound I didn't intend. "I was going to," I say, but then this happened. Lily's toy clatters, breaking the silence. Margaret's tone softens, manipulative. "We get that you love art, Elise. But Clara's kids need a home. You can paint anywhere." Thomas nods. Family comes first. Italy can wait. Their dismissal, a familiar blade, cuts deeper. Now my career deemed disposable, a hobby to pause for their crisis. This isn't just painting. It's my profession. My studio is my livelihood, I say firmly, calming Margaret's impatient sigh. "You're being dramatic. It's just space. We can move your supplies to storage." The assumption that my life's work can be boxed away sets a fire. "I've already leased the house," I say, the truth, a shield. "To Nora, an art teacher. She's moving in next month. It's legally binding. The air changes. Thomas's face reddens. You leased it. Without informing us, Clara breaks off. Where are we going? Her genuine and unfiltered tears make me feel bad, but Margaret becomes enraged and says, "You're choosing art above your own blood." "I'm not abandoning anyone," I respond. "I've offered money. We can find other options." Thomas shakes his head, saying, "Your studio's the answer." "Elise, it's practical." Their obsession with my space while ignoring their own four-bedroom home exposes a truth: my dreams are the sacrifice they demand. As a result, I feel guilty. As they all assemble to depart, Clara's gentle voice says, "Thanks for considering it, Elise. I know it's a lot." Her sincere but tinged gratitude twists the knife. Margaret pauses, saying, "We'll be back tomorrow to start moving things." Thomas continues, "Family pulls together. You've always known that." They leave quickly, the children's chatter fading, my studio silent and violated, and I stand among my tools, my drafting table, a silent witness, the walls closing in with their expectations. That night sleep escapes me, my mind replaying their words, their assumption that my career is a luxury, Clara's pain a real wound, but their solution is a theft of my soul. Sophie calls her voice a lifeline. They want your studio after you constructed it out of nothing. Sophie sighs sharply. They've never seen your art as real. This is about control, not Clara's need. Her outrage mirrors my own, and I respond bitterly. They referred to it as a hobby and suggested that I postpone Florence. Her truth shines through the storm, hardening my resolve and starting the fight for my sanctuary. My heart a canvas torn by Clara's pain, and Margaret and Thomas's unrelenting pressure pulses with defiance as the dawn breaks sharply. Its light slicing through the northern windows of my studio, illuminating the scars of my family's intrusion. There demands a storm that threatens to uproot my dreams. But their plan to seize my sanctuary for Clara and her children, Emma, Liam, and Lily, feels like a blade poised at my soul. Their return, uncompromising with boxes and plans to dismantle my studio, reveals a deeper wound. Their belief that my art, my life's fire, is a luxury to be sacrificed. Nora's lease and my Florence residency, however, stand as shields, but the weight of their expectations, their refusal to see my path, carves a rift. I, Elise Harper, stand at the precipice, my resolve clinging to earth, ready to face the storm's heart, knowing the battle for my canvas will draw blood. The morning after their unexpected visit, I'm tracing the edges of my drafting table, its worn wood a map of my victories, when my phone buzzes, Margaret's name, flashing like a warning. "We'll be there at 9, Elise." With boxes and furniture, Rebecca found a bunk bed at a thrift shop. Her brisk, assumptive voice assumes my consent. I texted last night begging for time, but her call ignores it, a gust that scatters my words. I haven't agreed, I say, my voice tight but steady. "We need to discuss other options." She sighs. "Time's short. Clara's house is in foreclosure. We're helping family." The call ends. Her dismissal is a spark that makes me angry, and I pace my studio's energy, violated its shelves, and kill no longer mine in their eyes. Sophie's words echo. This is control, not need. And I see it now. Their plan is not just to house Clara, but to pull me back into their practical world. My art a childish whim to be tamed. At 9, their cars arrive, Margaret's SUV and Clara's minivan, in a procession of intent, and they unload cardboard boxes, cleaning supplies, and a disassembled bed frame, while Emma, Liam, and Lily spill out their energy, a whirlwind. I open the door, my heart racing, and I say again, I said I needed time. But Thomas walks by with boxes in his arms, saying, "We're getting a head start. Clara needs this now." Margaret puts on gloves, looks around my living room, and says, "This'll clear out fast," her voice full of purpose. Clara lingers behind, herding her kids, her eyes averted, and Emma rushes to my studio, Liam following, their hands already reaching for my supplies. "Stay out," I call sharper than intended. But Lily toddles in her fingers, dipping into my rinsing cup, paint splattering my latest canvas, a piece for Florence. Clara's, "Careful, sweetie," is faint, her attention elsewhere. My studio, my sacred space, feels like a battlefield. Margaret walks into the studio with her eyes darting around and says, "This will make a fine bedroom." She points to my workbench and says, "Bunk beds here, crib there." Thomas nods and measures the north wall. "Plumbing set for a bathroom. We'll sell the big stuff kiln easel to cover costs." The casual theft of my tools, my livelihood hits like lightning. "You can't sell my equipment," I say, raising my voice. "This is my career, not a storage unit." Margaret's tone softens, manipulative. "Elise, it's temporary. You can paint in your house or our basement. We'll clear the Christmas decorations." Her offer, disguised as generosity, dismisses my studio's soul. After being silent up until this point, Clara speaks in a tremulous voice, saying, "I don't want to take your space, Elise, but we're out of options." Her rehearsed yet genuine tears make me feel awful, but her following words, "You're leaving anyway, why does it matter?" hurt. "It matters," I respond, "because this is my profession. My studio's leased to Nora. I'm going to Florence, and the Istituto Bellini residency is a global honor." Thomas's face hardens. "You leased it without telling us, knowing Clara's crisis." The accusation that my departure justifies their claim reveals her complicity. Margaret's voice raises, "You're leaving your sister behind for a trip to Italy." "It's not a vacation," I respond, "it's my life's work. I planned this before Daniel left." Clara's sob interrupts the conversation as she asks, "Where will we go?" The term vacation feels like a sharp blade diminishing the significance of my career. The children cannot live in my van. Her very raw sorrow clashes with their manipulation like a storm within a storm. The tension breaks when Nora's vehicle rolls into my driveway and her presence ignites the commotion. "Who's that?" Emma points, and I use the opportunity to say, "My tenant Nora Winters is dropping over papers." Thomas narrows his brows and asks, "Did you follow through?" His voice is judgmental and cold. "Yes," I reply. "It's my house, my decision." Margaret's hand tightens on Lily. "You're choosing paint over family." The accusation, a familiar refrain, pushes me to the brink. "I'm not choosing," I say, my voice aflame. "I'm honoring my commitments. Clara's crisis doesn't erase my life." Clara breaks down in tears and falls onto my stool. "You've always been selfish, Elise. Your art over everything." Her words, a mirror to our childhood rivalry, expose her wound. My independence is a threat to her script. Emma pats her mother's arm in a practiced gesture while Liam watches silently. The room feels like a cracking canvas, and my family's expectations weigh heavily on me. Nora knocks her presence a lifeline. "I should get that," I say, walking to the door. Thomas gathers his keys. "We're leaving. You've made your choice." His words, which are laced with fear beneath anger, reveal a deeper truth. My refusal threatens their control. Meanwhile, Margaret gathers the cleaning supplies, and Clara herds the children as they leave quickly and in a rehearsed manner. At the door, Thomas pauses, saying, "Family's supposed to stand together, Elise. I never thought you'd choose canvas over blood." The door slams, their cars retreat, leaving a silence that screams, and I let Nora in her eyes, meeting my shaking hands. "Bad time," she says softly, "family drama." And I agree. We go over the terms of the lease and her enthusiasm for the studio. This lights a dream, acts as a buffer against their rejection. Once more I stand in my studio by myself, the paint-splattered canvas as a wound, my resolve solidifying the blade of their betrayal sharp, but my roots deep, prepared to face the storm's next blow. The storm's shadow lingers, its blade of betrayal carved deep into the heart of my studio. But my resolve, a root woven through years of unseen toil, holds firm against the wind of my family's demands. Clara's pain, a raw river, flows beside Margaret and Thomas's unrelenting claim to my sanctuary. Their vision of my art as a disposable luxury, a wound that festers. My studio, my soul's canvas, stands as a battlefield. Their boxes and plans to reshape it for Clara's children, Emma, Liam, and Lily. A theft I cannot allow. My shields are Nora's lease and my residency at the Istituto Bellini in Florence. But the silence after their departure echoes louder than their accusations. I, Elise Harper, stand in the quiet, my heart a drum of fire, forging a path to protect my dreams, ready to wield it like a flame against their darkness. The dawn of my defiance breaking through the clouds. The days following their retreat are a tense silence with the walls of my studio echoing their words. Selfish abandoning canvas over blood, a chant that keeps me awake at night. Sophie calls her voice a steady wind. They're wrong, Elise. Your studio's your life, not their fallback. Her words strengthen my resolve, but Clara's tears and her children's doubtful eyes pull at my roots. I want to help, but not by giving up my soul. I draft a letter to Clara offering financial aid and suggesting a basement in their house or a rental funded by my gallery earnings, but my phone remains silent, their rejection a wall. At dawn, I paint my brush, slashing crimson across canvas, a release of hurt and rage. My studio alive with my defiance, its light a beacon against their storm. On the sixth day, my doorbell rings sharply and unexpectedly. I can see Clara by herself through the window, her arms crossed like a shield, and her stance shaky. My heart lurches like a tangled vine of dread, fury, and hope. I answer the door and ask, "Can we talk?" She asks in a gentle voice that lacks the edge of our most recent argument. Two sisters united by blood yet divided by paths join us at my kitchen table. New lines etch her eyes, a map of her pain. "Mom and Dad don't know I'm here," she says, declining tea. Her fingers tracing the grain of the table. They're still angry. I nod. I feel it in their silence. She pauses, then continues. "I've been thinking about what you said about always sacrificing your needs while mine are unquestioned." Her admission, a crack in her armor, surprises me. Clara, the eldest child, rarely contemplates our family's dance. "It's not that I don't want to help," I say, "but my studio's my life." Leased to Nora. My Florence residency is my future. Her eyes meet mine. "I was jealous, you know? When you bought this house all on your own, I envied that." The confession, raw and unguarded, shifts the air, revealing a glimpse of her wound beneath her flawless script. "Daniel called me spoiled," she goes on, her voice shaking. "Said I never faced consequences because someone always saved me. I hated him, but maybe he saw something." I reach for her hand with a quick touch and say, "You don't deserve what he did, Clara." But their solution, taking my studio, erases me. She nods, tears streaming down her face. "I didn't see it that way. I just saw my kids, scared, asking for daddy." Her pain is a river that threatens to overtake me, but I refuse to back down. "There's a transitional housing program," she says. 2-bedroom apartments, sliding scale rent. I have an interview next week." My heart lifts a glimmer of hope. "That's a start," I say. "My offer stands. I'll help with the deposit. Use my rental income for your rent." Her eyes widen, gratitude seeping through. Following my actions, I nod and say, "You're my sister. That hasn't changed." The moment is genuine yet delicate, akin to repairing a canvas, and our relationship resembles a tentative thread. As our conversation progresses, Clara inquires about Florence with sincere interest. "What will you paint there?" I tell her about the Bellini masters and the Renaissance techniques I'll incorporate into my work, and she listens without interjecting. I ask her about her job prospects and her resistance to advice, and we talk as equals, women navigating storms rather than rivals for parental favor. She gets up to leave, checking her phone, and says, "Mom and Dad might take longer to bend. They're stuck in their rules," to which I nod. This might force truths we've avoided. At the door, she pauses, saying, "Your studio's beautiful, Elise. I hope Florence makes your art soar." Her words, a quiet validation, make me cry. "Thank you," I say. And as her car fades, I sense a shift. Not peace, but a crack in our wall light, seeping through my defiance tempered by hope. "We've found a buyer for your kiln. They're coming Monday." Margaret calls the following day, her voice clipped. The assumption that my tools are theirs to sell rekindles my anger. "You can't sell my equipment," I say, my voice steel. "I haven't agreed to anything." She sighs. "Elise, Jean. We thought you'd prioritize family." Clara's crying, worried about her kids. The familiar yet scathing manipulation feeds my rage. I've offered money. Suggested your basement rentals. You reject everything but my studio. Why? Her pause is heavy. Our house isn't suited. Rentals are unstable. Your space is perfect. The circular logic dismissing my life reveals their truth. My dreams are the sacrifice. This conversation is over, I say, hanging up my hands shaking, and I call Nora to confirm her move-in. Her excitement, "I'll honor this space, Elise," serves as a shield while I paint again. My canvas becomes a storm of blues and grays, and my defiance burns brighter as I prepare to face their next move. My heart sinks when their SUV unexpectedly reappears the next morning, accompanied by Clara's minivan. Their determination is a powerful force. They unload more boxes and a child's dresser. Margaret's voice is bright as she says, "We're starting today, Elise. Clara needs this." I block the door and say, "Stop, I haven't agreed. My studio's leased. My career isn't disposable." Thomas's face flushes. Behind them, Clara appears shattered and Emma is holding on to her. "I'm not," I respond. "I've offered assistance money and rentals. Why is my studio the only solution?" Margaret's voice rises because it's practical. Your art's a hobby and Clara's kids are real. The word hobby like a blade pierces years of silence. My art paid for this house, I say, my voice a thunderclap. My last show earned more than Thomas in months. Critics call my work groundbreaking, but you've never asked, never seen. Clara's eyes widen a flicker of surprise, but Margaret laughs. "You're exaggerating, Elise. Family comes first." The rift widens, my truth of fire they cannot put out. When Nora comes with her car in a timely manner, I respond, "My renter." And as she exits, Thomas's voice gets more abrasive. "You're serious about this lease?" Clara sobs. "What about us?" I nod. It's legal and binding, and my life isn't a negotiating chip. Her pain real but weaponized tugs at me, but I resist. "We'll find another way. I'll help, but not like this." Margaret grabs Lily. "You're selfish, Elise, choosing paint over blood." The accusation a last gust forces me to act, and I call Sophie. They're back, planning to move in. Her voice is fierce. "Hold your ground, I'm coming." As my family withdraws their cars, a fading storm, Sophie shows up, her presence a root. We plan calling housing programs, documenting the value of my studio, reinforcing Nora's lease. My fire burns a defiance forged in their betrayal. My canvas unyithe, ready to claim my dawn. My soul's canvas now reclaimed Clara's pain. A river still flowing has found a new course, her steps toward independence. A fragile bridge between us, Margaret and Thomas. Their expectations of fading wind start to see my art, not as a whim, but as a force. Their hearts softening like earth after rain. My studio, no longer a battlefield, hums with the energy of creation. Nora's lease and my Florence residency at the Istituto. Bellini unshaken. Why Elise Harper stand in the dawn, my heart a drum singing of roots deep and dreams fierce, my path clear a tapestry woven from pain, truth, and triumph, ready to paint the world with my fire, the stars above whispering of a future unbound. The confrontation with my family, a knife that sliced deep, left scars, but in its wake, a new understanding takes root. Clara's visit, marked by her honest admission of pain and jealousy, created a crack in our wall that allowed light to flow through. Her pursuit of transitional housing, a 2-bedroom apartment with sliding-scale rent, marks her first steps beyond our parents' script. I send her $2,000 for her deposit, rerouting Nora's rent to ease her burden. Clara texts her words carrying gratitude rather than entitlement. "We're sisters." And I respond, feeling the bond mend not completely, but enough to hold. She enrolls in paralegal training, her voice brighter when we speak. "The kids love their new school," she says. Emma's drawings sent in a photo echo my childhood sketches, a quiet homage. Our conversations grow no longer shadowed by rivalry, but lit by mutual respect. Her questions about Florence. "Will you paint the Arno inspiring happiness?" My responses incorporating fantasies into our tenuous ceasefire. 10 days after our last confrontation, we summon Margaret and Thomas, whose silence looms like a dense fog. Margaret's cautious voice says, "Rebecca told us about the housing program and your help with her deposit," while Thomas clears his throat and adds, "We've been thinking that maybe we pushed too hard." Their words, not an apology but a shift, shattered the silence like a crack in the ground. I take advantage of the situation and invite them to my studio, saying, "Before I leave for Florence, see what I've built." They arrive hesitantly, their footsteps soft on my bamboo floor. Margaret's eyes follow the shelves I built, and Thomas touches the kiln they intended to sell. "You did this yourself." "We didn't know," Margaret says, her voice shaking. "We thought it was a phase." Awe permeates his question, prompting me to nod. Every nail, every pipe. I show them my portfolio, which includes reviews from Art in America, my Bellini acceptance letter, and pictures of my sold-out show. Their silence, no longer dismissive, holds a dawning respect. Thomas inquires, "How long is the program?" I share Florence's promise, learning Botticelli's brushstrokes and incorporating Renaissance light into my work. His curiosity at first feels like a hand extended. "A year," I say, "but I'll return." This studio's my route. Margaret's eyes meet mine. "We wanted Clara safe, but we didn't see you, Elise." Her words, a fragile seed plant hope I offer. "When I'm back, we'll find ways to help Clara together, but my art's my life." Thomas nods. "We're learning. Your grandmother Lila always said you had magic." The mention of Lila, her belief in me, makes me cry. We agree to drive me to the airport, which is more than just a practical gesture. It's a step toward honoring my path. As they depart, Margaret hugs me, whispering, "Make us proud." And Thomas's hand lingers on my shoulder, their pride a new star in my sky. Nora moves in her art books and brushes, blending with the energy of my studio. "This space breathes," she says, organizing workshops for her students. I take pictures of the empty shelves, not for loss, but for closure. My canvas is ready for Florence's hues. Sophie throws a farewell dinner with friends toasting. To Elise Fire's heart, the cake reads. Laughter fills my bungalow, its cracked tiles now a home. To Roots, Sophie says, clinking glasses. To Truth, I add. Later by myself, I stand in my studio, the stars visible through the skylight. No regrets, I whisper to Lila's spirit. The storm shaped me. The pain, Clara's betrayal. My parents' blindness has forged a strength I didn't know, my fire, now my crown. 3 weeks later in Florence, I move into a small apartment with a view of the terracotta roofs. The Arno's shimmer inspires my first canvas, a swirl of gold and shadow. Clara shows me her apartment, which is modest but hers. She holds up a crayon sun and says, Lily drew you a picture. My parents visit her, and Thomas hangs my stored paintings. Your art lights the place. He texts, bridging years of distance. My Bellini mentors compliment my textures. You bring pain to life, one says, and I see my family's storm in every stroke. The distance from home, a vast canvas, allows for new patterns. Clara's independence, my parents' slow awakening. My painting soaring a world where dreams and love coexist, a dawn embraced, forever mine. If this story resonates with you, don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more journeys about navigating complicated family dynamics, betrayal, and finding the strength to overcome what once felt impossible. Thank you for listening to my journey from the days of betrayal to the moment I reclaimed my worth and everything that rightfully belonged to me. Always remember, those who have the courage to rise and rebuild from the wreckage are the ones who possess the greatest treasures: resilience, bravery, and unshakable belief in themselves, and no one in this world can ever take that away.